how Martin Luther invented woke. When Martin Luther translated Romans 3:28, he made one small, world-altering choice. So halten wir nun dafür, dass der Mensch gerecht werde, allein durch den Glauben. That man is justified by faith alone. That word "iau" alone was not in the Greek text. Luther added it. And in doing so, he changed not only theology, but the inner architecture of the Western soul. Before Luther, salvation lived outwardly. Sin was confessed to a priest, forgiveness received through sacrament, and the believer was restored to the visible body of the church. And the moral life was communal, anchored in rites, mediators, and shared authority. Luther turned that outward drama inward. The sinner now stood alone before God, justified not by ritual or merit, but by inward trust, faith as confidence of the heart. From that moment, the sacred migrated from the altar to the conscience. In the centuries that followed, this inner theatre expanded. Pietists and Methodists urged believers to feel their salvation, to seek assurance not only in doctrine, but in emotion. Revivalists insisted that one must be born again, and the conversion experience became the new sacrament. Where the Catholic once heard absolution spoken by a priest, the Protestant felt it in the heart. Salvation was no longer a ritual, it became a psychological event. By the 19th century, this inward turn fused with Romanticism. What began as trust in God became a devotion to authenticity, to the self as the final authority of truth, to feel deeply, to be sincere, to be true to oneself, became the moral marks of the redeemed person. The altar of conscience had become the temple of emotion. In the 20th century, God faded, but the need for confession did not. The therapist replaced the priest, the therapy room became the confessional. Sin was renamed trauma, penance became self-work, absolution arrived as healing, faith had become feeling, grace had become self-acceptance. The human being still longed for justification, but now sought it through emotional wholeness. Today, the process continues, but the confessional has gone public. On social media, in politics, and in the language of activism, the same grammar appears. Confession, repentance, penance, absolution. But now the audience is not God, it is the crowd. We confess our privilege. We atone for ancestral sins. We perform our virtue through apology and outrage. Forgiveness is conditional. Grace is provisional. Emotion, visible sincerity, becomes everything. Where once sin was healed by sacrament, it is now managed by sentiment. In Catholicism, emotion assisted grace. In Protestantism, emotion confirmed grace. In the therapeutic age, emotion became grace. And in today's activist morality, emotion dispenses grace. What began with faith alone has become feeling alone. There is a paradox here. When forgiveness depends on emotional display, it never truly ends. Without divine mercy, absolution becomes endless performance. We confess again and again, but no one can finally say, "You are forgiven." The need for atonement remains, but the world has forgotten where to find it. Martin Luther's single word, alone, began a revolution of the interior life. It freed the conscience from the church, but in time it made the conscience the new church, a tribunal that never stops judging itself. We are still a civilization haunted by justification, searching for grace in our own reflection.